Both on this old house and the new Yankee Workshop for years, we have always promoted safety in all aspects of what we do, but most importantly, in eye protection.
There was a time when millions of Americans spent Saturday mornings watching a man quietly build furniture. No shouting. No competitions. No dramatic countdowns. Just a master craftsman, a stack of rough lumber, and the steady sound of saws and chisels turning ordinary wood into something extraordinary. For more than 2 decades, the new Yankee Workshop wasn't just another television show, it became a classroom for an entire generation. Viewers didn't simply watch Norm Abram build cabinets and tables. They learned patience, precision, and respect for craftsmanship itself. Yet in 2009, after 21 successful seasons, the workshop doors closed for good. There was no public scandal. No collapsing ratings. No angry network executives. Just a quiet goodbye that left loyal fans wondering why one of television's most beloved educational programs had suddenly come to an end. The answer, however, begins long before the final episode ever aired. To understand what happened, you first have to understand why the new Yankee Workshop became so different from every other show on television. When PBS launched the series in 1989, America was experiencing a boom in home improvement. People loved learning how houses were built and renovated, thanks largely to the success of This Old House. But producer Russell Moorish believed there was another story worth telling. Instead of rebuilding entire homes, why not focus on the furniture inside them? There was only one person he trusted to make that idea work. Norm Abram. Viewers already knew him from This Old House, where his calm personality had quietly made him one of the program's biggest stars. Unlike television personalities who relied on jokes or exaggerated reactions, Norm spoke with confidence because he actually understood every tool in his hands. He wasn't acting. He was teaching. That difference changed everything. Inside a carefully designed workshop, Norm began creating projects that ranged from simple bookshelves to museum-quality antiques. Before cutting a single piece of wood, he explained where each design came from, why it mattered historically, and what techniques original craftsmen had used centuries earlier. Then he recreated those pieces himself. There were no professional furniture makers secretly building projects behind the scenes. Every joint, every measurement, every mistake, every correction. The audience watched it happen in real time. That honesty built trust unlike almost any other television series. Week after week, viewers returned because they knew they weren't watching entertainment disguised as education. They were watching genuine craftsmanship. As the seasons passed, the influence of the new Yankee Workshop reached far beyond public television. Woodworking clubs reported growing memberships. Tool manufacturers noticed increasing demand from hobbyists. Community colleges saw more students enrolling in woodworking courses. Across the country, garages slowly transformed into workshops inspired by Norm Abram's lessons. Many viewers never intended to become professional woodworkers. Some simply wanted to repair furniture around the house. Others dreamed of building a dining table their children might one day inherit. Norm gave them confidence to try. That was perhaps his greatest talent. He never made woodworking appear easy. He made it seem possible. While many experts enjoy showing how much they know, Norm focused on helping others learn. Every complicated technique was broken into simple steps. Every safety reminder was repeated with genuine concern. His famous advice about wearing safety glasses became one of television's most recognizable catchphrases, not because producers insisted on it, but because viewers believed he truly cared. That authenticity became impossible to manufacture. As cable television exploded during the late 1990s and early 2000s, audiences began seeing a different kind of home improvement programming. Networks wanted faster editing, bigger personalities, competition shows, dramatic renovations completed in impossible time limits. Television was changing. But inside the new Yankee Workshop, almost nothing changed at all. The camera still lingered on carefully measured cuts. Norm still explained every step without rushing. Mistakes weren't edited into dramatic moments. They became lessons. Ironically, that refusal to chase television trends became one of the show's greatest strengths and eventually one of its biggest challenges. Producing each episode required enormous effort. What viewers watched in 22 minutes often represented days of planning. Wood had to be selected. Historic designs researched. Every camera angle prepared. Lighting adjusted so viewers could clearly see tiny woodworking details. Then Norm still had to complete the entire project himself. Unlike many television hosts, he couldn't simply memorize a script. If a complicated dovetail joint needed cutting, he cut it. If a table leg required shaping by hand, he shaped it. Nothing about the craftsmanship was fake. That authenticity demanded countless hours of physical labor. And unlike scripted television, there were very few shortcuts. By the early 2000s, Norm Abram was balancing two demanding careers at the same time. He remained one of the central figures on This Old House, traveling to renovation projects across the country while continuing to film full seasons of the new Yankee Workshop. Few viewers realized just how exhausting that schedule had become. Every season meant months of standing on concrete floors, lifting hardwood lumber, operating heavy machinery, repeating intricate handwork, and spending long days under hot studio lights. Still, Norm rarely mentioned any personal difficulties. If he was tired, viewers couldn't tell. If he was dealing with pain, he kept it to himself. The workshop remained exactly as audiences remembered it: calm, welcoming, and quietly inspiring. But behind the cameras, an important realization was slowly taking shape. After more than 20 years of teaching millions, one difficult question could no longer be avoided. How much longer could one man continue carrying an entire television series almost entirely on his own? The answer would ultimately determine the future of the new Yankee Workshop and explain why one of PBS's greatest success stories ended not with failure, but with a decision that surprised nearly everyone. As the final years of the new Yankee Workshop approached, viewers noticed something remarkable. Nothing had changed. Norm Abram was still building elegant furniture with the same precision he had shown since the very first episode. His explanations remained thoughtful. His projects were just as ambitious. The workshop still felt like a place where craftsmanship mattered more than entertainment. From the outside, the series looked as healthy as ever. That is exactly why its ending surprised so many people. Unlike countless television programs that slowly declined before disappearing, the new Yankee Workshop ended while it was still respected. There were no reports of poor ratings forcing PBS to cancel the show. There was no controversy involving the cast or producers. There were no creative disputes making headlines. Instead, the biggest challenge facing the program was something viewers could never see: time. By 2009, Norm Abram had spent more than 20 years filming two demanding television series while continuing to perform real woodworking on camera. Every table, cabinet, chair, and bookcase required hours of physical effort long before the audience ever watched the finished episode. People often forget that woodworking is not simply a hobby. It is physically exhausting. Large hardwood boards must be lifted repeatedly. Heavy machinery requires constant concentration. Detailed joinery demands hours of standing without rest. Even sanding and finishing can take an entire day for a single project. For someone approaching his 60th birthday after decades in the trade, the workload became increasingly difficult. According to those close to the production, Norm never wanted viewers to notice those challenges. He believed people tuned in to learn woodworking, not to hear about his personal struggles. That attitude had defined his entire career. While many television personalities built their reputations around themselves, Norm always placed the craft first. The furniture mattered. The teaching mattered. The audience mattered. His own comfort came last. Behind the scenes, producer Russell Morash faced a difficult reality. The new Yankee Workshop wasn't a show that could simply hire another host and continue as if nothing had happened. Norm Abram wasn't reading someone else's script. He was the program. Every lesson came from decades of real experience. Every demonstration reflected skills developed over an entire lifetime. Replacing him would mean replacing the very reason viewers watched. The producers understood something television executives often forget. Some shows succeed because of their format. Others succeed because of one extraordinary person. The new Yankee Workshop belonged firmly in the second category. As conversations about the future continued, another problem became impossible to ignore. Television itself had changed. During the late 1980s and early 1990s, audiences were happy watching educational programming that unfolded at a natural pace. By the late 2000s, networks were chasing a completely different audience. Home renovation shows became competitions. Builders raced impossible deadlines. Arguments replaced instruction. Explosions, dramatic reveals, and emotional confrontations attracted bigger ratings than careful craftsmanship. Television rewarded excitement. Norm Abram continued rewarding patience. The contrast couldn't have been greater. Ironically, the very qualities that made the new Yankee Workshop timeless also made it increasingly unique. Instead of changing to match modern television trends, the series stayed true to its original mission. There were no unnecessary gimmicks. No celebrity guest appearances. No artificial drama. Just honest woodworking. That decision earned enormous respect from longtime viewers, but it also meant the show would always remain exactly what it had set out to be, a quiet celebration of craftsmanship. Eventually, Norm reached a conclusion that many fans later described as both heartbreaking and admirable. Rather than continuing until the quality declined, he chose to end the series while it was still at its best. It wasn't a decision based on failure. It was based on pride. He wanted audiences to remember the workshop exactly as they had always loved it. When the announcement finally arrived in 2009, the response was immediate. Letters poured into PBS from loyal viewers. Woodworking magazines published tributes celebrating the show's remarkable legacy. Online forums filled with stories from people who credited Norm with teaching them skills they still used every day. Some remembered building their very first coffee table while following one of his episodes. Others described fathers and grandfathers introducing them to woodworking through Saturday morning broadcasts. Professional cabinet makers admitted they had first picked up a chisel because of Norm Abram. Teachers praised the series for inspiring younger generations to appreciate traditional craftsmanship in an age increasingly dominated by disposable products. Perhaps the most touching response came from ordinary hobbyists. Many explained that they never became expert woodworkers. They never built expensive furniture. But they learned enough to repair a family heirloom, build a bookshelf for their children, or create something meaningful with their own hands. To them, that knowledge was priceless. After leaving the new Yankee Workshop, Norm didn't disappear. He continued appearing on This Old House, where viewers could still benefit from his decades of experience without the enormous responsibility of carrying an entire series alone. Away from television, he finally had time for something he had spent years helping others achieve: working in his own shop. He completed personal woodworking projects, spent more time with family, and enjoyed building simply because he loved the craft, not because television schedules demanded it. Then, after more than 40 years with This Old House, Norm officially retired in 2022. Once again, there were no dramatic farewell tours. No emotional publicity campaign. Just quiet appreciation for a career that had influenced millions. Yet perhaps the most surprising chapter came after retirement. When episodes of the new Yankee Workshop became available online, an entirely new generation discovered them. Young woodworkers who had never watched PBS during the original broadcast suddenly found themselves captivated by Norm's calm teaching style. In a world dominated by short videos and fast-moving content, people found comfort in slowing down. Many commented that watching the show felt almost therapeutic. Others admitted they had purchased their first woodworking tools after binge-watching old episodes. More than 15 years after production ended, the workshop was still changing lives. That may be the greatest measure of its success. The new Yankee Workshop didn't disappear because people stopped caring. If anything, appreciation for the series has only grown. It ended because its creator understood a lesson every master craftsman eventually learns. Every great project has a natural finish. Knowing when to stop is just as important as knowing how to begin. Norm Abram never chased fame. He never tried to become a celebrity. He simply spent more than 2 decades teaching millions of people that quality work requires patience, honesty, and pride. Those lessons outlived the television cameras. Today, the workshop may be silent, but its legacy continues in garages, basements, and workshops around the world where someone measures twice, cuts once, puts on a pair of safety glasses, and remembers the quiet craftsman who proved that the best things in life are built to last.